The elevator doors slid open with a mechanical groan, and I stepped out into the hall carrying a bundle of freshly printed flyers. The office smelled faintly of burnt coffee and ozone from the old printers, and the harsh fluorescence painted everything in washed-out shades. My stomach was a not anxiety exactly, more the cold dread that comes after too many disappointments stacked like rickety chairs. I walked past the glass meeting rooms, handing out the flyers for the Costa del Sol insurance seminar like it mattered to me, though I'd stopped caring about these things long ago. At the copying room, Santiago, my boss, sat hunched over his desk, shirt sleeves rolled up, hair always slicked back too tightly. His lips pressed into a thin, doubtful line when he saw me, like he was enduring an unpleasant smell. Hombre para esto estudiaste, he called out, voice broadcasting to everyone standing nearby. There he went again, that ugly little ritual humiliating me for sport. I pasted on a tight smile. Lo importante es trabajar no. He set his pen down with exaggerated care, glanced at my flyers, then at me. Film school, what was it? Now you're printing leaflets for old ladies' insurance. How's that for glamour? The words tumbled out laughing, punctuated with a scoff. Around him, the juniors and secretaries glanced over, eager for their share of morning amusement. Heat climbed up the back of my neck. My hand clenched tighter on the stack. I'll take glamour over rotting here. One day maybe I'll make a film about this office. My voice was calm, but in my chest I was shivering with fury. He snorted. A film, right. Maybe it'll win an Oscar, eh? Everyone laughed harder, echoing off the glass walls. I met Santiago's eyes, refusing to look away. I didn't have a witty retort or a hail of pride. Just a dry mouth and a brittle anger that lived somewhere near my heart, stoking itself for later. Inside, I was already 1,000 kilometers from that office, somewhere brighter where the air didn't feel so heavy and stale. After work, Madrid's heat wrapped itself around me, sticky and dense as a wool blanket. I walked the long way home, past Plaza Mayor with its buskers and flower sellers, the tap of my battered shoes the only rhythm that matched my mood. My mother called as I passed the corner bakery. I glanced at the screen, hesitated, answered. Samia, ya compraste el pan. She never missed a chance to remind me. When I said I was almost home, she added, don't forget the change. Tu padre está cansado today. At home, my father was slumped in his old armchair, staring at an old telenovela. Dinner was a quiet affair, then talk of bills, neighbors, all sliding past me like grey water. I tried to mention I was working on a script at nights, a comedy about adult children and their failing parents, and my brother whistled. Buono, if it's as funny as your last short, Madda will be the only one watching. My father grunted his approval, not looking from the TV. Solamente los ricos hacen películas aquí, you study, get a real job, no más locuras. They talked over me as if I'd never left the room, as if I was some half-invisible ghost haunting their routine. Rage pulsed in me again. I wanted to shout, don't you see me now? Don't you see I'm still fighting for it? Instead, I swallowed it, again. For months, the days became a grindstone, wearing me down. I juggled night shifts, gig editing jobs, barely sleeping, always scribbling story ideas in a battered notebook. No money, no time, just exhaustion and a stubbornness I couldn't explain even to myself. There were moments when I wanted to give in, wanted to accept the tight little world handed to me by bosses like Santiago and parents who thought films were for daydreamers. But each time I thought of quitting, I remembered the mocking tone, the recall in my father's voice, the way my mother only smiled at dreams she considered harmless. Late one night, I took my camera and walked the alleyways of Lavapiés, capturing neon-lit bars, wrinkled faces over chessboards, lovers smoking on the sidewalks. I told myself, if I can't get funding, I'll shoot it myself. And that's what I did night after night, the city as my set, my friends as actors, my savings bleeding out on borrowed lenses and plastic props. You're crazy, laughed Anna once as we waited for traffic to pass so I could film her running across Gran Via. Nobody cares about short films, put it online, 10 views. That's your audience. I grinned, teeth aching from tiredness and hope. I'd rather be crazy than sit behind a desk waiting for life to pass. She looked at me, really looked, not with pity but with a kind of affectionate wonder. Promise me if you make it, you'll come back and show them all. I promise, I said. I needed to believe it. My short film, Noches sin sombra, didn't explode. At first, just friends watched and the occasional online stranger. Festivals sent form rejections or nothing at all. The only ones who saw it live were in a dank bar basement where the sound kept fuzzing out. But I kept filming. I scraped up enough to shoot another project, this one about a delivery boy with big dreams and a city that kept shutting him down. I put myself in the shots when I couldn't afford actors. For a while, I balanced on the edge between hope and giving up. People still laughed when I told them what I was doing. At every family meal, I was the punchline. Samir brings his new masterpiece. Turn the volume up, maybe this time we'll understand his art. Only my little niece Marta took me seriously. She'd climb into my lap and say, "Will you make me a princess movie, Tio?" and wait, trusting for a promise. The world is different in a child's eyes. Nobody tells them dreams are ridiculous yet. About 2 years after that day at the office, an email slid into my inbox at 3 in the morning. The subject was a festival I'd barely remembered submitting to in Rotterdam. I opened it expecting more polite rejection, my thumb ready to delete, but the message began. "We're pleased to inform you." I read it 3 times, then again, squinting to be sure I wasn't delirious from lack of sleep. It was real. They were inviting my second film to its European Shorts competition. They would pay for my flight. Everything spun for a second, the ceiling swirled, my breath caught, then released all at once. My hands shook as I dialed Anna. "Hey," I stammered, "you're awake. No, listen, someone wants my film." She screamed so loudly I had to hold the phone away. The weeks after that were a blur of last-minute arrangements, nervous calls with festival staff, and trips to government offices for a passport. I didn't tell my parents until the day before I flew, fearing maybe unfairly that they'd talk me out of it, or worse, try to make it something small. In Rotterdam, my film played in a dark theatre before a silent audience. Something happened as the credits rolled and the lights came up. A woman in the front row wiped her eyes. A man approached me and pressed a card into my hand. "Beautiful work, layered, you have a voice." For once it didn't sound like pity, it sounded like respect. It wasn't blockbuster success, but it was real. The applause echoed in my memory all the way back to Madrid. After that, doors opened, not all at once and not always wide, but cracks that let in just enough light. I started getting emails from small Spanish distributors. There were invitations to talk at screenings, workshops where I showed others how to do it cheap. My father stopped sneering mostly and started asking how festivals worked. My mother asked if I'd finally make a nicer film about our family. My brother joked less, but you could see a little pride hidden under the sarcasm. A few times, people from my old office reached out, mostly for favors or advice. Santiago emailed once for tickets to a festival showing, which I ignored. I was still angry, but that fire felt cooler now, shaped by success. I moved apartments, bought a second-hand car, paid off half my loans. It was slow, scrappy work, but I was doing what I chose, my hand on the tiller, not just drifting behind someone else's orders. Madrid changed too in my eyes. The streets teemed with possibilities again. The city sky wasn't just an empty lid holding me down. 3 years after that first humiliation, my phone rang one Monday morning. It was the Madrid International Film Commission. They wanted to screen my new feature at the Teatro Calderón, the biggest theatre in the city centre. They wanted a Q&A, a press conference, the works. "Will my family get tickets?" I asked first. They laughed. "As many as you want." I emailed invitations, one by one, my parents, my brother, Santiago, my old office crowd, Anna, friends from film school, every critic and distant cousin who ever left me a little bruised. Most said they'd come. Santiago ignored the invitation. My father just said, "We'll see." I didn't push. The week of the premiere, my hands shook as I pinned up festival lanyards and press clippings at the theatre's backstage. The screening night came hot and thunderous, Madrid steaming in late June. I watched the city swirl past the taxi windows, skyscrapers, buses, lovers hurrying under the iron balconies. Everything alive, expectant. Outside the Calderón, the red carpet was real this time, not movie magic, real, spotlights, a crowd chattering. I wore my one good suit, freshly dry cleaned, though the collar scratched my neck. Inside, the plush red seats stretched in endless rows. There were posters for my film in the foyer just under the glass and gold lamps. My mother pressed my hand, whispering blessings. My father stood stiffly beside her, scowling at the grandeur. A few rows back sat Santiago and his wife, dressed to pass among the theatre crowd. It startled me that he had come after all. He kept his eyes forward, stony as ever. When the lights dimmed, any anger slipped away, replaced with a glassy calm. Serenity, finally. If I failed here, at least I'd failed on my own terms. The film unspooled on the vast screen the story of a Spanish-Moroccan family divided by old secrets and impossible dreams, played out in streets that looked a little like the ones I'd walked home along for years. I watched the audience as much as the flickering shapes on the screen, little gasps of recognition, watery-eyed laughs, someone blowing their nose beside me. In one scene, the protagonist, who looked a lot like me, faced his father across a cluttered table. For a moment, I wasn't in the theatre but back in our apartment, the smell of burnt bread and cheap soap curling from the kitchen, the ache in my chest sharp as ever. When the credits rolled, there was only a beat of stunned quiet, then applause, sharp, unforced, growing in waves. My mother was sobbing openly, my father looked down, jaw trembling. The Q&A began, questions tumbling out fast about identity, about struggle, about why I'd chosen to keep the story set in Madrid's immigrant streets. I answered as best I could, sometimes my voice caught but never from shame. Afterwards the crowd thronged around. Some asked for autographs, me signing my name, a laughable dream until now. My father embraced me for the first time in years, hard and wordless. When he stepped back, his eyes were rimmed with tears. Only Santiago hung back, arms crossed, expression locked in careful neutrality. Later, near the foyer, he approached, forcing a small, polished smile. "Congratulations, Samia, that was impressive." I looked at him, really looked, as I had never dared before, and shrugged. "You said once esto es ridiculo, guess it was only the beginning." There was no anger left, just a simple, steady peace. He shifted, face coloring. "We all doubted you, but you proved us wrong." "Well done." There was a faint note of envy or maybe regret hiding in the gravel of his voice. "Thank you," I said simply. I meant it. Something heavy lifted and was gone. That night, Madrid shimmered with possibility. My family walked home with me under the orange city lights. My mother squeezed my arm, her smile proud and melancholy all at once. My brother punched my shoulder, grinning without jokes. At home, we toasted with cheap carver and leftovers, laughter threading through our small kitchen. My niece chattered about which princess she wanted to play in my next movie. I promised her soon. Later, as the city quieted and the house dozed, I stood on the tiny balcony and let the warm air carry away the old bitterness. The mocking voices, the disbelief, they were echoes now, powerless. I had returned. Not just to Madrid, but to myself, the child who had dared to dream, and the adult who had finally learned to answer mockery with creation. Serenity washed through my anger's old embers, and I breathed deeply into the night. If the world ever doubted me again, I knew now it didn't matter. I belonged here with my camera, my city, and my story. I had found my way home.